Hey beautiful babes, how's it going? Welcome back to my channel, and in today's video I am going to be messing around with this basket, bin, whatever you want to call this, of makeup that I'm not entirely the biggest fan of. I am super excited to kind of give all these products a second chance. I know the lighting in here is a little weird. We're still trying to figure that part out. So go ahead and let me know if you like the lighting in this video better, or if you like the lighting in our last video better. I am going to jump right in with some primer. So I do have quite a few primers in here. I think I have 3 actually. I've got the Milani Green Goddess primer, which I actually am super, oops, I'm gonna break it, jeez. I'm super excited to try this out again. I thought it was really nice. I have the e.l.f. Tone Adjusting Face Primer, and then I have the Makeup Obsession All A Blur Priming Stick, which is like the ginormous thing that was half the side of my face. If you guys hear super heavy breathing, it's because one of my roommate's dogs is trying to get into my door, and he tries to like shove his whole face in there. So I guess I'm going to go in with the Green Goddess primer from Milani first. I just think this product made me look a little oily, which I get is like, you know, kind of the point, I guess, since this is an oil. But it is marketed like as a primer, so I thought the oiliness would kind of just go away after it sunk into my skin. I did just try this product on its own without any other primers, so I am a little curious to see how it's going to work with the Makeup Obsession primer, which is the one I'm going to go in with next after this kind of soaks into my pores. This is super hydrating. So it just really depends on the day with me, because I do kind of have combo skin, leaning oily kind of. So if I'm really good about my skincare, then my skin's pretty neutral. I am going to go in with the Makeup Obsession All Blur Priming Stick. This is that super awkward, super huge, allegedly pore blurring primer. I was not the biggest fan of. This thing is just so ridiculously big, and I don't really feel like it blurred my pores as well as some of the other primers I've had, like in my worry areas, which is like basically my T-zone. I feel like I have a lot of texture, so I was like, oh great, you know, this will minimize that, and it definitely didn't. There's no instructions on here. This definitely gets like the entire area of the face though, which is really nice. And I'm not, again, not exactly sure if that's how you do it and then you just leave it. Like, it doesn't say if you should rub it in. It doesn't say anything like that on it at all. It's just a pore blurring giant stick the size of my entire face. So I am just going to kind of push it into my pores, because I feel like with this primer especially, it just kind of sits on the surface of the skin and doesn't really sink in, like the e.l.f. Poreless Putty Primer. That one I really like. I use that one every day. And it really just kind of like smooths out, god, this lighting is so bad, like smooths out the areas I feel like I have a lot of texture, which is nice, because that way I'm not like, oh my god, you can see my pores from space, because you absolutely can. Sorry, trying to adjust our lighting situation here, my goodness. Is it a little better? I can't tell. I don't really want the light in the video though. There we go. Okay. So I did push it in, but it does feel like super waxy, which I'm not the biggest fan of. I'm also starting to realize that I should have pulled all of these products out of my bin before I decided I was going to do this video, so I'm not off camera digging through for stuff like foundation and highlighter. I think this is the only foundation that I have in here. This is the Dream Urban Cover foundation. I believe this was the wrong color and it made me get super, super oily, so I'm not really excited about that. And my beauty blender isn't over here, so I will be going in with this in just a second. I am going to run and get my beauty sponge and I will be right back. Alright guys, I am back. I did go ahead and grab my beauty sponge and I also fixed the lighting situation. Thank God. I did find another foundation in there, and I think this one made me super oily as well, but I believe this BB cream from e.l.f. is a closer shade than the one from Maybelline. We're just going to do a quick color match. So that's the e.l.f. one. Here comes the Maybelline. I definitely remember not liking this applicator. Okay, so the Maybelline one is definitely whiter. I think what I'll do actually, since I didn't really like them, either of them, the Maybelline one made me super oily. It made my makeup break apart. It was just not a good time. And the BB cream from e.l.f. just wasn't as full coverage as I would normally like, but that is the one I'm going to go into today. I know BB creams usually aren't, you know, super full coverage, but this was supposed to be like a medium coverage product, and it was just super, super light, and I can't remember why else I didn't like this product. Oh, it might have been the wrong shade. That might have been why I didn't like it. I guess we'll find out, because I honestly cannot remember why I don't like this. And I am just taking it off the back of my hand. I feel like this lighting makes this foundation look green, which I'm not super, super happy about. Obviously it's more of like a brown, but this lighting is definitely making my face look green. Can you guys hear the dog? That's the dog trying to shove his whole head under my door. That's him trying to break down my door. I probably will do a video with them in it at some point. I just don't know when, because they're super, super hyper. And they just are like super, super, just, they want to run around all the time, which is fine because they're puppies, but I can't do my makeup and babysit at the same time. So I think I don't like this because it's the wrong shade, and now that I'm thinking about it, I think this foundation or BB cream, whatever you want to call it, was just super, super patchy, I believe, or it dried down weird. I know there was a reason, like a super specific reason that I didn't like this one. I dropped my sponge. I just can't remember what it is. So I do have this concealer from e.l.f. From what I remember, it's not a bad concealer. I just think it wasn't as full coverage as like a Shape Tape, and I think it smelled, oh no, this burned my eye. That's why I didn't like it. Yep, still smells like paint thinner. It's probably still gonna burn my eyeball. No, it's burning my skin this time. e.l.f., if you're watching this, could you make a concealer that doesn't burn my skin or my under eye when I put it on my face? That would be super great. And this is in shade beige. It's just the Hydrating Camo Concealer. I like the original. I'm just gonna move this closer. I like the original Camo Concealer. That formula didn't really burn my eyes or my skin, but this is definitely like burning my under eye area, and not a super nice way. Like, it's not even like an irritating burn. This is like I don't know, it almost feels like a chemical burn. Like there's something in there, I put some in my eye. My goodness. There we go. Nope, it's still in there. My gosh, you guys. Yeah, it's almost like a chemical burn. Like, it's still burning at my eyeballs. There's still something in my eye. My goodness. If you're new here, hi, welcome to my channel where I am a hot mess and products burn my face. And then I do only have one setting powder in here. This is the translucent setting powder from Hard Candy. I just think I didn't like this because it doesn't give me as concentrated as of a bake as I would like, and I kind of have to go really hard in the pan to really get any on my beauty sponge. And I just have like the e.l.f. Halo setting powder. It does such a nice job. The new Makeup Obsession setting powder that I tried in a video is super nice. This does say it doesn't give like any flashback, which it doesn't, I mean, which is nice, but I'm just one of those people who, when I set my face, I want it to be kind of more concentrated so it brightens the area more. And this just doesn't really do that for me. I feel like I have to layer and layer and layer with this product, which is not super great. It's like super time consuming. So this is still a pass. It's gonna go back in the bin. I am going to let that sit for a quick moment. I do have a couple eyeshadow palettes that are in the bin. I've got the neon ones, I've got Winky Lux, I've got the Opposites Attract from e.l.f. And a couple others, so I am just debating on what I'm going to use today. Yeah, this foundation is the wrong shade. It doesn't really feel bad on my skin. I just wish it was the right shade. I am going to use the brushes that I don't like too. So this was in my last video. I can't remember what brand this is from, but this is from the dollar store, and it just didn't really like apply my makeup the way I wanted it to. It's just super cheap, obviously. But we're just going to use that to dust off my bake today, and then I am going to move on to highlighting and contour. So I know I raved about this palette. The one thing I don't like is the contour shade in here is not super great for my skin tone. I really prefer my Physicians Formula bronzer. I think that's so great. And the highlighters in here just aren't like super bright, which if you've been on my channel for a minute, you know that if you can't see my highlighter from space, then I'm doing it wrong. But I am just going to go into Light Sculpt, which is the shade I usually use, with this Wet n Wild contour brush that I also got from the dollar store that I was not in love with. I can't remember why I didn't like it. I think the makeup application just ended up being super patchy. Yeah, I just feel like this bronzer is just too dark for my face. I definitely like a warmer toned bronzer, just because I think it brings more light to my face. I think it kind of brightens everything up. And with like a cooler toned bronzer like this one, I don't really think I get the same effect. I think it kind of like puts a lot of shadows on my face, which I know, you know, obviously that's what contour is for. But I just like a more warmer toned contour. I am going to hit my nose really quickly. This isn't a bad highlighting and contour palette. Would I use the highlighters in here again? Probably never, unless I was using them as a shimmer. The contour shade in here isn't horrible. It's just not a super great. No, I'm breaking things. It's just not super great for my personal skin tone. And then I'm not sure why this was in here, but this is my Milani blush in Tea Rose. I think it's in here just because I broke it and I was super sad about it. So I'm just going to go back into that all over face brush. This still doesn't smell like anything. Yeah, I think this is just in there by mistake because I love this blush. It is so pretty. That was way too much blush, and I don't have another brush right now, so cool beans. We'll just be a hot mess. I don't think this has surprised anybody. So I'll probably put this back in my regular makeup kit just because I love it so much, even though it is broken, which is a little depressing, so I'm going to keep that out. I am going to move on to highlighter. I do have a couple options. I do have the e.l.f. jelly highlighter that I poured all over my lap in my e.l.f. video. And I do have a couple highlighter shades in the Throw Shade palette over here from Makeup Obsession. I don't think this is a bad palette, but it is also a contour palette, and the contours in here are just too dark for my skin tone. So it's probably not something that I'll be reaching for a ton. So I think what I'm going to do is give this jelly highlighter another try. I do think it's like a super interesting formula. It is jiggly, like jello. I am going to take the tip of my beauty blender, just like I did in the e.l.f. video. I do feel like you get a lot on the beauty blender, and there's really no way to like stop that. Sorry, there's specks. They're gonna drive me nuts. Anyway, I remember this being super quick drying, so I am just going to pat this on before it dries down. That's way too close to my eyeball. Bad makeup and bad makeup techniques. Oh, also guys, I didn't know what to call today's video because it's not like all of the makeup in this, I don't know what to call it, container is like bad, horrible makeup. It's just stuff that I don't personally like and that I will probably never reach for again. So it's a super nice like nose and Cupid's bow highlight. But as far as the face goes, like it's super quick drying, and it's kind of hard with a beauty blender to place it where I want it to. I'll probably keep playing around with this just because I liked the concept. So I'll probably try this in a couple more videos. And then I am, just because I'm super anal, shocker, I am going to go ahead and actually grab a regular highlighting brush because I don't have a cheap one that I don't like. This is my Bretman Rock highlighting brush. I have definitely preferred this one just because of how small it is. I am going to go in and mix the shades Sassy and Attitude right here and go over that e.l.f. jelly highlighter just to give it a little bit more of a kick. We are just going to use the mirror in here. Yeah, this is like way too close to my face, so maybe if we can just add more light over here. Way too close to my face. Oh my gosh. Way too close to my eye. And then like this side is so blended that you can't even, it's not nearly as bright as the other side. Also, the highlighting shades in here are like super, well, at least Attitude is. Obviously it's the gold shade, but I feel like even Sassy picks up on the skin a little bit more yellow toned. I do like the shades in here, but it's just not a contouring palette that I would ever reach for. So that's obviously going to go back. I am going to go ahead and use, I don't know what palette to use, guys. I have a lot. I have the e.l.f. Opposites Attract palette. I have the Bretman Rock palette I just wasn't super impressed with. I've got the Winky Lux palette. I've got the 2 highlighter palettes from Profusion, so I just don't really know where to dive in. Maybe I'll use the shade out of each of these. But I guess here goes nothing to, oh, I probably just broke one. Actually, what I think I'm going to do, because there's a couple of these that I want to give a second shot, so I probably will, maybe if I can get it out of the ridiculous packaging here. Maybe not. I'm just going to rip it. Sorry, Bretman, but your packaging is annoying me. So I think I'm going to give the Bretman Rock Wet n Wild palette another shot. Just because the shades in here do look super pretty. I just didn't really get like enough oomph out of them for my taste. I've used almost every shadow in here. I've tried looks with this row right here. I've tried looks with this row. I've tried looks with this row. I've tried looks with this row. And really, I just didn't get enough pigment out of this palette. And I'm probably going to pair that with probably the e.l.f. Opposites Attract palette. I didn't really like this one because the eyeshadows were kind of patchy, and again, just not bright enough for my personal taste. And then if I have to, I am going to go ahead and try this Winky Lux palette again. It's not something that I hated. It's just not something that I reach for, and it smells like a Post-it note. Still smells like a Post-it note. So I think what I'm going to do is go ahead and actually use a brush that's not horrible. And I'm going to dip into shade, I can't decide. I think I'm going to dip into shade Pounce on them, which is this purple shade, and just apply that, dip into this pan here. There's no mirror in here, which again is super frustrating, but I'm just going to hit the outer edge and kind of go into the crease. And right away, this is like the same problem I was having with it last time. Like, this purple shade on the lid is just way lighter than what I was wanting it to be, and I had to spend a lot of time like layering and layering and layering, and the look just took forever and a day. I know purple shadows are super hard to make, but when they're in a palette like this, you know, and this is advertised as like super pigmented, you know, you expect them to be the same shade they are in the pan as they translate on your eye, and that's just not the case. This is shade Feline Myself. You know, obviously, like, I am in love with his highlighter and his blush, or his brushes. I think those are super great. I just think the purple eyeshadow in this palette, I mean, it's just not it for me. Like, it's just not it. Like, the purple in the, what is it, the 24A Artist palette from Morphe, the purple shadow in there is super pigmented. It's so vibrant. It's just like this neon purple. I mean, again, this purple doesn't look bad, but it's very clearly doesn't translate the color that it is on the pan to the color on your lid. I think this is what happened last time. I just dinked around with this one eyeshadow color forever and a day. That's not bad. It's just not the purple that I was personally looking for. I am going to now go ahead into the e.l.f. Opposites Attract eyeshadow palette and go into their purple shade, which is Easy Going. I don't think I tried this shade. This is just more of like a lavender shade. It looks super pretty on the brush. I might match my background by the end of this video and just kind of use it to like darken up the purple from Bretman's palette, because I do just want kind of a darker vibe tonight. So I feel like this easygoing shade from e.l.f. is more pigmented. It's just more of a purple that I mean, I wouldn't necessarily gravitate towards it, but again, I do like it better than the Bretman Rock purple. I just think his is just not the same shade as it is in the pan, which is frustrating. So we're just gonna kind of darken everything up like so. And I'm still just using that one shade, which is Easygoing from the Opposites Attract e.l.f. eyeshadow palette. And then I am going to go ahead and grab a different brush. Can you guys hear the dogs out there? Grab a different brush and go into the shade Cheeky from the e.l.f. palette, which is this orangey shade kind of in the middle. I know you guys probably all think I'm nuts, and I'm just using, I think this is a Sonia Kashuk brush, but it's like got super big bristles on it, and I'm just gonna kind of hit the inner corner of the crease to just kind of brighten everything up. This is like a super orangey pinky shade, but it does really brighten everything up. See, that looks, I think it looks so much brighter already. I'm just kind of bringing it in and around. I feel like I move around a lot when I do my eyeshadow. Now I am going to go ahead and grab another brush again and actually dip into the Winky Lux palette. And I'm going to go into shade, actually I might have just lied. I lied. Sorry, not sorry. I'm going to go version like, no, I don't want any of these shades. I'm actually gonna stay in the e.l.f. Opposites Attract palette and dip into the shade Saucy and mix it with the shade Sassy. So that's these two right here. I'm just gonna grab a BH Cosmetics brush and just mix these two together, tap off the excess, and just go right back into that inner corner. We're just gonna kind of brighten things up. I have purple eyeshadow all the way on my nose. Go me. I just think it brings like a bunch of light to this look and blend it out. I think it's gonna look super, super pretty. So we'll see. I think these palettes together work super well. I just don't think, I'm trying to eat my own hair, that the Bretman Rock palette by itself is like enough for me to do a full eye look. Now I am going to go ahead and do what I said earlier and grab a different brush and go into the Winky Lux palette. This one's like a post-it note. And I'm going to go into shade Brulee, which is this kind of tannish shade right here, and just go kind of on the middle of my lid. And I feel like this is a good like neutralizing shade. I don't know if that's necessarily a thing, but it kind of just calms everything down. I feel like it brings your attention to the eyelid instead of everything going on in the crease like that. And then I am going to take the back of this brush and go into shade Sugar Crystal, which is this shade right here in the middle. It's super pretty. It's like a super nice shimmer. If I remember correctly, it applies like shit with a brush, and I'm gonna have to go in with my finger And ladies and gentlemen, I was correct. So I am just going in with shade Sugar Crystal right here on my finger. It's a super pretty shade. I'm not flipping you guys off, I promise. Just gonna tap, tap, tap. Give it a nice shimmer. I think all three of these palettes work super nicely together. Obviously the e.l.f. Opposites Attract palette, I could do a lot with that. The shades by themselves though are just too patchy for me. I have to layer them over something else. Even when I did my Everything e.l.f. Under 20 video, these shadows were just too patchy on their own. I am going to go back into this palette with a different finger and get the orange out of the shade, my goodness, and go into shade Low Key, which is this white shade right here, and I'm just going to take that on my finger and use it as my inner corner shade. It's the super, super blinding, like, white shimmery shade. I think it is super gorgeous. If anything, I will keep this palette just for this shade because it is so pretty. I can use it as a highlight. I can use it as an inner corner color. Because, I mean, like, just look at how gorgeous that, like, white, shimmery, beautiful, like, hot, beautiful mess right here. It's kind of like my life. Hot, beautiful mess.